Good morning again. I shared with you during the opening that we would be really highlighting forgiveness, exploring forgiveness this morning. I'm joined by my friend Nancy Wilson and Josh Berger. They are both licensed professional counselors, and I want them to just kind of have a conversation that y'all listen in on. First, about just your experience of forgiveness in the counseling room, the need for it, the giving of it. Go.
Yeah, I would say, first thing I think that's really kind of important to realize is a lot of times when we are hurt by someone, it's very painful, and so we put up a lot of walls and defenses, and the idea of letting go of that is difficult because you don't want to be in pain. So being unforgiving or angry can sometimes just be a defense mechanism that we hold on to. So you're not crazy if you have trouble forgiving. I think that's the first thing that's important to remember.
Absolutely. I feel like most clients that I meet with regularly end up having some level of forgiveness that they're needing to walk through. And even as I usually bring that up with my clients, I find a lot of times that's the first reaction I see is kind of this like clutching or this tensing up as they're hearing not, I need to forgive, but Josh, you're asking me to be unsafe. If I forgive, am I now vulnerable? If I forgive, am I now going to experience the same type of hurt or even more hurt because now I feel like my guard's coming down?
And I think the hard part of that is that you kind of are becoming a little bit unsafe if you choose to forgive, right? I mean, you are possibly becoming vulnerable to someone who could like sin against you again or, even cause trauma, re-traumatize you again. And so I think it's really important, especially as Christians, that we recognize that God is our safe place and God is our defense mechanism. And it's only in kind of leaning into his love and grace that we have enough bravery, first of all, to forgive, but also recognizing that he will care for us, he will love us when we're in pain. He will be the one who does that good work.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that? I've got one more question for y'all to...
Go for it.
Okay. It's something I have learned about over the last few years. I would often kind of equate forgiveness and reconciliation, but I'm learning that those are different things, and they're very intimately related. But talk about that, the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. And I know that both of you have dealt with a lot of trauma with your clients, so maybe tie in especially when trauma is related.
So I would say forgiveness as kind of a working definition is the idea that the debt is paid. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's paid by the person that harmed you or the person that hurt you. The idea is that the debt is paid by Christ. And so we are recognizing that we forgive as we were first forgiven. Reconciliation is that other part that I think a lot of people kind of confuse the two or combine the two, is the idea of reconciliation being re-entering into a healthy relationship with the other person. Forgiveness is also a one-sided thing. You don't need the other person to have made any progress, any healing, or anything in order to forgive that person. Whereas reconciliation takes two people involved and kind of re-navigating a new healthy relationship.
And I think forgiveness is a conscious choice to let go of the resentment and the desire for revenge that you have when somebody hurts you. I would really like to emphasize that is not a one-time thing. So if somebody has really hurt me, and in my heart, I work on this, I pray about this, I forgive them, I feel like I forgive them, it doesn't mean you won't still have resentment and anger. It's a process that you continue working on. So I think I want you to recognize that you're not, if you still feel angry in your heart, that doesn't mean you're not working on that process of forgiveness. It just means it takes time, especially if the wounds are very deep. You're going to have to keep coming back to that and kind of recognizing that, okay, today, maybe my spouse or my friend sinned against me and hurt me and betrayed me in some way, but today I'm going to choose to let go of that resentment and the desire for revenge, and you kind of have to keep doing it over and over as a process, to heal yourself in a lot of ways, and God works through that process and will walk with you through it. I think the other thing, maybe you want to talk about this, but reconciliation in terms of when it's appropriate and not appropriate.
Yeah, so particularly whenever, for any of you that have experienced trauma or walked with someone who has experienced trauma, I think it can be very easy to hear what we're talking about today and instantly feel that tension that now I'm going to be hurt, now I'm going to be vulnerable, or I could go back and be re-traumatized. What I think a good rule of thumb for reconciliation is whenever you see that for both people involved, this is now going to be a healthy relationship. For many of you, you've been in toxic work environments, maybe even a toxic marriage, maybe you've even been physically or sexually abused. We're not saying that you go in and be foolish or that you trust that just because you have now forgiven this person, that that person is somehow safe. That may not be the case at all. And so that idea of when the relationship is going to be healthy for you and healthy for the other person, that fine line and that prayerful process, like Nancy mentioned earlier, is something that you're going to gently walk through. That's one of the reasons why I really encourage people to find a wealth of wise counselors, whether that's an actual counselor, a dear friend, mentors, whatever combination of that to better help you better navigate as you're healing and as you're forgiving what this new relationship will need to look like.
Wow, thank you. So we're all dismissed now. We don't need to. No, this really, really appreciate y'all sharing.
I would like to add one more thing too. Be really be really compassionate when you're with yourself when you're dealing, especially with trauma and really painful events, and you're trying to forgive and it's hard and you're struggling. I mean, definitely get a counselor, or talk to your pastors or whatever you need to do. But if you have been somebody who's dealt with abuse or serious trauma, betrayal, like deep loss, be loving to yourself, because a lot of times we get angry with ourselves having gone through that, and we blame ourselves for not being able to let go or for bad things that were done to us. So we need to have a lot of self-love that we draw hopefully from God's love, but it allows us to love ourselves too. And I think that's really important in this process, because we can really turn on ourselves
Yes.
otherwise.
Very helpful. Thank you all so much. Yes, thank you.